Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Health Chats Among Friends. My name is Deidre Kindred, and I am a nurse advocate, educator, and navigator. And today we have a fabulous friend of mine, Karen Mitchell, with Assisted Living Locators. Hi, Karen.
Good morning, Deidre.
Good
Thank you for having me
morning.
today.
Oh, thank you for being here. So, Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am the owner of Assisted Living Locators of Fort Worth. I help seniors find independent living, assisted living, memory care, residential care, daycare, whatever kind of care that they may need. My service is completely free to the senior and their family. I work with over 100 properties in our area, so I can really quickly narrow down that search to just those properties that fit their budget, their location preference, their lifestyle, and any care needs that they may have.
I think that is awesome. I can tell a quick story that my mom, when she was in the hospital, when she was here with us on Earth, she was in the hospital and they were getting ready to discharge her from the hospital. And fortunately, the hospital gave us a whole list of places, but it's like 20 places they went on the Medicare.gov, and it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming because they give you 3 days to
Mhm.
find a place because they're going to discharge you. And you're like, where do I start? What do I do? And so when I found out about your services, I was like, oh my goodness, these are such wonderful services because you really do the hand holding for the family members and you find a location that fits their specific needs.
Exactly. The senior living industry, it's not something that you learned in school about it. You
Mm,
don't really know where to start looking.
right.
Some of the properties, if you call, may or may not give you pricing over the phone. They're more likely to right now with COVID because some aren't allowing tours again yet. But it's such a there's so many. They all basically do the same thing, but they are so vastly different. There's truly something for everyone, and you just people like a type A or type B assisted living. People go, I don't know the difference, you know.
Right.
So we really do a lot of knowledge work with them to help educate them so that they understand a little bit more about the whole process. I had a couple of ladies call me on a Friday a couple of months ago, and they said, we are frantic. We both have daughters getting married the following weekend, not that weekend, but the following. And our dad has dementia, and we've been taking turns caring for him. He cannot go with us, and we are so afraid we're going to have to cancel our trips to our daughter's weddings.
Wow.
So we quickly started looking, and within 24 hours, we had found a wonderful place for him. And I visited him just before COVID hit this year, and he thinks he's on a cruise ship, and he is just delighted. He said, "This is the best cruise I've ever been on. These people are so nice, and the food is wonderful." And it just makes you feel so good. And they both went off to the weddings, and emailed me when they got back, to say how good he's doing and how much they were thankful for the services because they had literally been driving everywhere trying to find the right place. And it had taken a lot of time and energy and gas and a lot of disappointment when they got there and found out it wasn't the best place for him. So it can really help them spend less time and less energy
Hmm.
looking if I can present them with the possibilities. We can talk through the communities that I'm putting in front of them, and then they can decide which ones they want to see. Pre COVID, I would tour each family to each community and be right by their side the whole way. Now, mostly we're doing virtual tours still, although a few are, especially independent living, are now allowing in person tours. But it's kind of hard to make decisions even from virtual tours. So I can provide additional information to them that they might not otherwise know just by you looking at those virtual tours.
That's such an amazing service because there's so much that goes into, because a lot of people are misguided when they get a whole list and like, okay, there may be somebody at the top of the list and that may not be the best fit
May not.
for your mom or dad or yourself or whatever you're looking in. It's a lot of education that goes back with you with your services, and I like when you said that, because you have assisted living, memory care, adult daycare, and it's great that you can take the time to sit with that client and really delve into, okay, what are their needs, and these facilities match. That saves a lot of time.
Right. I'm also a certified senior advisor and I'm dementia care certified.
Yay.
So I've deeply studied gerontology and the aging process, the dementia process. So that too helps me ask the right questions of the families when I'm gathering information at the intake to make sure that where we place them is going to be the very best fit and that they are truly qualified to take care of all that person's needs. If you use an online service, there's lots of good ones out there, like A Place for Mom and caring.com. However, they usually ask you 2 or 3 or 4 questions maybe, and then they'll give you a list of communities. They may or not be in the location you really desire. You may not be able to afford them. Sometimes they don't really know the pricing because although they do have a few people with boots on the ground, they're not constantly in and out of the communities like a local placement advisor like me is. I also may know pricing specials that they may not be aware of, because normally the communities will kind of keep in touch with me on those and let me know what kind of specials they're having. You know, if they're having any events that somebody might want to come to pre-COVID. So that helps tremendously too. So it really, and I can also provide resources along the way, like if they need an elder law attorney, if they truly need to apply for Medicaid or Veterans Aid in attendance, or if they want to contact a senior moving specialist, somebody that moves no one else but seniors and knows those needs, or does estate sales for them, or any of those type things too. Transport companies, if they just want to try in-home care for a while, I have resources for those, as well as home health, hospice, palliative care, and those sorts of things too.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm so glad that we can. Well,
Also
thank you. Well,
help them
that's amazing. That's why, another reason that this health chats among friends came up to place, because we have resources, and it's nice to be able to educate people, before, instead of when they're in that crisis mode,
right.
you know?
Yeah, and
So,
so many people get their education off the internet nowadays, and that's a
mhm,
great way to research a lot of different things. But
mhm,
sometimes you see conflicting stories or conflicting information,
right,
and that makes it hard to know that I had some of the most common questions I'm asked is, well, I can't move there. I can't take my pet.
right.
Most of the communities are pet friendly. They may have some restrictions on the size or weight of the animal, like if it's a large dog. What if I don't want to eat what they've got on the menu? And I can help them with that. And most of them have 2 entrees, and they have a supplemental menu that you can order from. Well, I don't want to be a prisoner there. Well, you're not. You can come and go as you please, unless you're in memory care and you don't really need to be out on your own. But you
Mhm.
can come and go as you please. Your family, once COVID's over, they can come and go as you please. And you can always have access to the building if you get back in the evenings. And they do lock the doors in the evenings for safety reasons, most of the communities. But, there's always a way you can get back in. So you're not locked in and you're not locked out. You're always welcome to come and go. So it's a wonderful place to live and to meet people and be social and learn new things and try new activities. And they have outings. It's an amazing lifestyle.
Yes, it's so funny because, you know, I would say maybe 20 years ago, maybe I was 3. And I feel like the term nursing home has such a bad condemnation with it. And now,
With COVID.
these days, well, not only COVID, but I'm thinking about our world we live in now, minus COVID, because we're going to talk about COVID in just a minute. But these are some of the most amazingly beautiful. I feel like sometime when I would take a tour of some of the facilities that we know about, I feel like I was at a resort. I had to pinch myself and see, am I in Mexico or am I in Jamaica? They
Exactly.
are very nice.
They are very nice, and there's all sorts of different sorts of ambiance. Some are beachy, some are rustic, some are just kind of old-timey, homey, and they're just, like I say, they all basically do the same things, but they're just so vastly different in so many ways. And
Yes.
it truly, you can find what best fits that senior. And if they
Right.
like that down homey type, if that's with their background, that's where they're going to be the most comfortable.
Yeah.
And that makes, it's hard to tell that sometimes just from the pictures. So it's helpful to have somebody that has been in and out of those and kind of knows what's available. Do they have courtyards? What kind of courtyards do they have? Do they have raised planter beds if mom likes to garden? And a lot of them do.
Right.
What sort of activities do they have? Do they have church services? Well, yes, almost all of them do. Bible studies, gospel singing, type things like that the seniors just dearly love.
So, how has COVID changed your aspect of serving a client?
Well, I don't get to tour in person with them as much as I used to. Some of the communities, if they are allowing tours, I will go with them. Most of them are not. The independent livings have opened up a little bit better, and the assisted livings, I think we're getting there. I think we're almost there. But mostly I work with virtual tours. I gather more additional information. I may ask the sales director to walk through the community and let the client ask her to show them certain aspects that maybe aren't on the virtual tours. So she can kind of give us a walking tour, so to speak, as live, and the client can go, well, would you walk me back through the activity room? I kind of want to look over there. Or would you walk me back through that apartment and let me see that again, that particular apartment that I'm interested in? So it's gotten a little more difficult,
Yeah.
but I've still had just as many move-ins this year as I did last year, honestly, after COVID kind of settled down a little bit and we kind of almost got used to it, if you can use that term. Because when a senior, especially right now, the isolation is just so hard for our seniors, especially. And if they're at home and they're not getting many visitors, they're not getting out and driving around or even going to the grocery store. And that social aspect is so critical to our
Right.
seniors, and to
Right.
have the friends and family. And if they can't have those, at least in the community, they have other residents that are there. There are people to tend to their needs if they have those. And I've seen so many seniors that, especially mostly women that have been home for a long time by themselves, and they move into a community and all of a sudden they're making friends and they're eating better because they don't have to cook their own meals or do the dishes, and they just thrive and bloom. It's just the most amazing process to go back 2 months later and visit with them, and they're
That's awesome.
smiling and engaged and active,
Yes.
and it is just the most wonderful thing in the world. It's a wonderful feeling.
I know. I can see your face light up when you talk about it. So, what made you do it? What's your why for doing this
Well,
service?
I have a long list of whys.
Okay.
I was an only child. My mom was an only child. So when my grandparents, who mostly kind of raised me anyway, when they grew older, back in the late 80s and before there was anything but nursing homes,
Right.
I eventually was caregiver for them, hired live-in caregivers for a while. Eventually, they both went to the nursing home, so I took care of them through all that. And then shortly, they passed away within a year of each other, like, sometimes our
Yeah.
seniors do because they miss each other so much. But
Yeah.
then my mom came down with breast cancer, and I was in charge of her care. So I took care of her through that and through hospice. And then years later, after I married, we moved back to the Arlington area because my husband's mother had been diagnosed with dementia and was
Oh,
beginning to need more
wow.
care. So we
Mm-hmm.
walked through that journey too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had been traveling for business for about 8 years, and I was just worn out. So we were living in Granbury, not a lot of jobs in Granbury, didn't want to drive back and forth to Fort Worth. So I took a job as a director at a senior community
Oh,
that
okay.
had independent living, assisted living, and memory care all on one campus, and did that for a couple of years. And we moved to be closer to my husband's work ultimately. And I began looking for something else to do. And he said, why don't you open another business? And I said, oh, that's a good idea. So I found Assisted Living Locators and bought my franchise and started doing this. So I have a long history in the healthcare industry as non-clinical. I'm not a nurse like you, but so I had all that to bring to this also, plus all the training that I've had and the continuing education and all of those good things. And it's just been the most wonderful thing in the world. I've just met the nicest people in the world. Our seniors are just such a wealth of information and warmth, most of them, and it's just such a delight to be able to spend time with them and their families.
And I want to address the fact again that your services are free to the seniors.
That's correct. No matter how many hours we may spend together, I'm paid on the back end if someone moves into a community. We have an agreement. I have an agreement with over 100 properties, and they know what my fee is, and my fee is standard. So I don't ever push someone to move into a community that's more expensive because my fee stays the same. I just try to find the very best fit for that particular person because it's not one size fits all.
Right. Love it. And what areas do you serve again?
My primary focus is most of Tarrant and all of Parker and Hood counties. However, I can really help place anywhere in the United States. There's 140 of us franchisees stretched all over the U.S., and we can always work together and find the best fit anywhere in the United States. If there's not another assisted living locators franchisee in an area, such as Denton, we don't have anybody up in that area right now, then we work in that area also. And I'm familiar with most of the communities and the care homes in that area too. And I also wanted to add, most people look at pricing and they go, oh my gosh, assisted living, $4,000. I can't do that. But there are a lot of good residential care homes that, some of those can be a little bit more affordable. So I also work with about 34 of those in the area. And they can be an awfully good place, especially if you have someone like a brittle diabetic or somebody with some care needs. Their caregiver ratio is lower from a caregiver to a resident aspect than most assisted livings are, the communities are. So they can get one-on-one, eyes-on care 24/7. So that can be a wonderful place for those folks who just can't afford or really need additional care or more eyes on, I guess I should say, than additional care.
Absolutely. I love the concept of residential care homes. I attempted and did open up a residential care home initially a few years ago, but God said, no, that's not what I want you to do. And so, but I learned so much, so much. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't know we had 34 in the Metroplex.
Yeah, that I know of, and I learned about a new one here or there. And there have been some new ones open during COVID because some families have been more comfortable placing a loved one in that smaller home with fewer people in and out and fewer people in the home than they were in a community setting for the last few months. So there have been some new ones open up, and most of them are owned by RNs or LVNs or CNAs or people who were caregivers for many years and just got tired of doing that, and they wanted to try it on their own. And some of them their hearts are just amazing. They love those people in there with them, and they just make them feel welcome, and they take such good care of them.
Oh, wow. That's such an amazing service. I'm so excited. So, Karen, if someone had some questions or comments or wanted to learn more about your services, how would they contact you?
My phone number is 817-718-0619. And you can call or text to that number, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I do a lot of question answering, so I'm used to that. I love to talk about the industry, and it's the most amazing thing just to be able to tell people and educate them about what we do and what's available out there.
And the name of your company again?
Assisted Living Locators of Fort Worth.
Awesome. Karen, thank you so much. This has been so much fun
and
informative.
It was fun.
Oh, yes. I love it. I love it. I love learning about new services. Every time I talk with a professional expert such as yourself, I learn something new. It's wonderful.
That's a good thing, right?
That's right.
I always do too.
Yes,
I always do.
Yes. Well, thank you again for your time. This has been so much fun. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Health Chats Among Friends, where we bring you experts with reputable resources to your community. Have a great day.
Bye.